What is going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a good Monday. Sheets, unfortunately, is not going to be able to make it tonight, but we're going to talk through this slate anyway, and I'll go through some of the things I did for. I'm actually playing on FanDuel, which I don't usually do, so I'm kind of excited about that and getting some flack for my Scooble take earlier. Look, it was wrong. It wasn't even that I didn't think he would have a great game. I just didn't. I wanted to fade 70% chalk, didn't work out. I still have him like 45%, so it's not like I didn't fade him entirely. It just didn't end up with as much of him. But anyway, it is what it is. We're on to football for tonight, and we are going to get into it in just a moment. Good to see you, Depot. Hopefully we can have a similar result to yesterday. All right. So this is sort of what I got in my first runs before, just for what it's worth on DraftKings in terms of captain exposure. It's a little chalkier than I necessarily wanted. I like the idea of the New Orleans receivers. Again, I think that you could take a shot on either one of them. I like Olave better, obviously. I think that Worthy is worth taking a gamble on because, he catches a few passes in addition to one bomb, and he gets there. And then looked like little bits of exposure. I didn't get as much of Kareem Hunt. I have him in my hand builds, but I didn't get to as much of Kareem Hunt tonight just because I was trying to find little ways to get a little bit over the field in some other spots. You can see I have a little bit of Watson, Steele, whatever. But it's a little bit spread out for me. I didn't want to go nuts with it. I did a build earlier, but I'll rerun it and clear all my exposures, and we'll do that before we get out of here. But say what's up when you get in the chat. I did want to mention just on FanDuel, I am actually flirting with the idea of doing some weird stuff. Like I'm getting to more Cedric Wilson than I thought I was going to. He didn't come out in my first things, but in my hand builds, I keep ending up there. I'm getting to more of Juju in my hand builds than I thought I was going to. And those both feel very fringy, but that's just where I'm at. And obviously my favorite captain actually tonight on FanDuel is I actually kind of do like Mahomes. And I know that it's going to be popular. I don't usually play the quarterback as a captain, but I do like Mahomes a little bit here. I think it's going to be a tough game for them. And I think that New Orleans is going to come to play. I think they're going to have to put up points. And Mahomes to Kelsey with, some of those other weird plays, it works out pretty well if you run back Kamara, But because you can see in my scripting, I came up with more Kamara than I did anyone else, which is going to be the chalk, obviously. At least it would seem that way. If I was going to get a little bit frisky with someone else as a captain, I go back to the Olave, Shaheed, Worthy as a potential spot to look for there. And maybe you hope it's an ugly game and you could even play the kickers, which I have a little bit of, as you can see over there as well. Just again, though, it's hard on FanDuel. It's really, really just a different. I'm trying to get used to it. I'm trying to trust the sims, trust the process, but it's not my favorite thing. I really do like the DraftKings showdown. What's up to Eagles? What's up to TJ and Depot? Yeah, Depot really likes Worthy. I like it. The only thing I have an issue with Worthy is he really just runs like 3 routes. Like he doesn't. They need to if they find ways to involve him more, which they very well may. Also, the coach speak of Andy Reid talking about how they want to get more receivers involved. They don't really have a choice, but that's sort of my another justification for taking some shots with Juju. And Cedric Wilson, look, he should play like 40+% of the snaps. The problem is that they could easily go to what's the other kid's name? Mitten? What is his name? Let me just double check it. Who am I thinking of here? Let me just go to flex. Nothing matters. Who am I thinking of? There was a guy who I named for whatever reason I never remember. Where is it? Huh? Tipson. That's who it was. Anyway, yeah, sorry about that. I could not remember there for a second which one I was talking about. But yeah, so I have a little bit of the New Orleans defense, a little bit of the Chiefs defense, but not an extreme amount. I think there's better plays in this game, but I ended up with more of the Chiefs over here. But I actually have New Orleans in one of my hand builds, so I'm getting to some of it. I like Juwan Johnson. I didn't get to it in my scripting, but in my hand builds, I did get to Juwan Johnson as a value play. And you can sort of see the rest of my exposures and my captain exposure I already went through. So that's sort of what my take on this slate is. Usually we'll have Sheets here with me on Mondays most of the time, and then we'll have Brandon on Thursdays. Occasionally Brandon will pop in for a Monday. So unfortunately, it's going to be a little bit of a quicker night probably. Yeah, Kareem Hunt's worth playing, but Kareem Hunt, everybody you're mentioning, TJ, there's nothing off the board about any of these guys. Kareem Hunt might be let me just look at the ownership. He might end up being as the 4th highest owned player, for what it's worth. So yeah, I'm playing him, and I have him a little below the field just because the ownership number is high. That's it. Noah Gray is totally fine. It's not like again, I like the Juwan Johnson also. So I think for what it's worth, we are going to see a decent game, another decent game out of Kelsey. I do expect him to be a little bit more involved here. And I think Noah Gray is completely reasonable as well. I'm a little bit more on the Juwan Johnson than Noah Gray at the moment, just because, again, I think that where are we looking at ownership-wise? I think Juwan might be a little bit higher, but there should be more opportunity potentially for him. And then you can get into the Foster Moreau thing if you want to as well. Those are the cheap ones that I would take stabs on. And I think it's very possible one of those guys catches a touchdown. So I'm looking at it this way. I like the Saints a lot tonight. They're five. I got them at, I think it was plus 5.5. First of all, it's usually good to bet against the Chiefs whenever they're favored by like that range. They just win so many games by one score that a lot of the time it's going to be 3 or 4, 2-1, whatever. But I think that it's a really good value to take New Orleans tonight. I also like the over for what it's worth. That one wouldn't surprise me though either way. It just felt like a little bit of too low of a number to me. Thought it could have easily been like 4 or 5 points higher. So it kind of surprised me. Worthy or Hunt, if I had to pick, I mean, Hunt is a much more secure play, I think, which is weird to say because he just started playing. But like, let me look at something really quick. We're calling Hunt the primary running back. If we're going to call him the primary running back, it's kind of hard not to say that Hunt's the better play. Worthy is going to be lower owned, but still have some ownership. But yeah, Worthy's. I mean, it is interesting that Hunt's going to be as much more popular as he is. So if you want to take a little bit of a pivot, maybe that's a pivot you can make. Is end up with more Worthy than Hunt. I think it's a different way to go. I totally agree with King of Smack here that the kickers are viable. I think especially you want to you could get 10 plus from both kickers tonight. It wouldn't surprise me one little bit. I like that call. Again, as you can see, I got to 27% Butker. I didn't get to as much groupie as I wanted, but he's in my hand, one of my hand builds also, so I'm actually closer to 20. But I'd like to get maybe a little bit more over that. I like that call quite a bit about the kicking. And I'm happy to play both kickers like in the same lineups. I think it's an interesting thing. People don't tend to do it. So even if the ownership on them is both like 15%, it's just going to be a very small number of that 15% that are in the same group of lineups, basically. Anyway, we still have. I'm just trying to see if is there any news I'm waiting on. Let me just double check my NFL Twitter page. I'm sorry, my NFL. My updates page. I don't think I have anything new. Yeah, so I'm trying to think. There's really not a whole lot that I feel is left to be decided. Like there is some nights with a million Q tags and stuff. We do have Hardman questionable. That's probably the most significant one. But even that, like, do we want to take that shot? Yeah, he'd be another guy you could consider taking that shot on. If we fade him out, I still don't know that we have a clearer answer. That's why wouldn't we just go Juju because he's so cheap. But I do think getting to one of these cheapies with the main builds is a good way to go. And like I said, captain is where I've had maybe the most of my struggle tonight because I understand why it is the way that it is, but it actually feels a little low on Mahomes to me. And I think I might have to, when I get to my hand build and my final edits, I think I might have to go with a little bit more Mahomes. The Hunt thing feels a little suspect just because he's the 4th highest owned. Again, I think it wouldn't surprise me, but it feels like this is all a little, I don't love the chalk, but I don't think that I'm getting that far off the board by liking Olave, by liking Shaheed. Maybe Derek Carr is something we could do. I actually think Shaheed and Olave end up with a little more ownership. I think Derek Carr gets forgotten about here. And without Taysom Hill, I do think Derek Carr's, we all know that Kamara's upside is higher, but Derek Carr's is certainly as well. So I actually think that's probably a good way in one of my bigger buy-ins. I think I'm going to actually do that with Carr. And I'm not a guy who usually plays quarterbacks. It's just not my thing. In Lamar and Josh Allen slates, you kind of have to a lot of the time. But in general, I'm trying to get away from quarterbacks. I just happen to kind of like them both tonight, which is it's not just different from most people. It's just different from what I do normally. Carr, oh my God, there's Eagles asking about my thoughts at Carr captain. I think it's a good pivot. Again, I probably have, I don't know, I'll probably have 8 to 10% of it, which is a pretty high percentage number when you think about it, because he's only going to be like 2 or 3% probably. With KC offense kind of down and a weapon, they make Butker play. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good call. Hunt should get a lot of work. He should. But are we so sure? And you know what? Who I'm wondering about? It's just they made his price so high, so no one's going to play the P Ryan. They made his price a little too high. I think that's another one. Maybe not for a captain, but a play you can force in. Because there is a game script where he ends up getting some third down work, has some good drives, and maybe stays on the field. I could see that happening. We've seen a lot of that lately in the NFL. So maybe this P Ryan is an interesting way to go. Those are the ones that's the biggest one that I have a note to add to. I still like the car thing, as I mentioned, but I've already done that part in my hand builds. And I'm curious what your guys' takes are. D-Pope, we got a prediction on the score. Throw it out there. Had a really good betting week. In addition to finishing 5th in the Blitz yesterday, I had, what did I finish? I think it was 11, 5, and 1 on all my bets this week. So no, 10, 5, maybe it was 10, 5, and 1. It was either 10, 5, and 1 or 11, 5, and 1. But another good one. Oh, Kerry Carpenter hits a 3-run homer. Whoa. What did I say on? If you guys watched the show, and I should get some credit for this one, I did say Kerry Carpenter would be an interesting guy to throw in, or Colt Keith, if you're going to play the showdown slate. Unfortunately, I only got to a little bit, and it doesn't look like it's going to be enough to actually make me money on this showdown slate. I didn't play. I played $200, so it wasn't not a huge deal. But man, that would have been. I wonder if so. Let's see what if the winner has this in there. Do they have the? No, that's wild. That is freaking wild to have the one guy who scored any fantasy points and nobody has him. And I have him, and yet I didn't do well enough with my other plays for it to matter. That's kind of irritating. Well, it is what it is. Other than school, obviously. I thought you'd have to have a Scuba lineup with him. They made those guys cheaper if you're not starting. That would make the game better, but you can't do that because you have to announce the guys before you do. It's just a little frustrating. So, I like that, D Pope. All right, the P Ryan idea. So that's the pivot. The steal is a little bit the pivot off of the all of your what's his name, chalk, Kareem Hunt. Why can't P Ryan outscore Kareem Hunt? He doesn't have to do it even half the time. He has to do it like 1 out of every 9 games at this ownership disparity. So that's an interesting spot. Yeah. But, D-Pope's got 27-20 Chiefs. I feel like you always say 27-20. But, in all fairness, it's a pretty good. I like that King of Smack. I went a little bit higher. I went 24-21 New Orleans. But, I'm sorry. I went 27-24 New Orleans. Excuse me. I'm trying to look at where I had it. Yeah. 27-24 New Orleans. But, look, nothing would surprise me. This is a great, I think Mahomes is the greatest I've ever seen. I really do. It doesn't matter like what. I understand that Brady has to be considered the greatest ever, but if you watch guys, there's 2 guys who I watched play who just look so much better than everybody I also have ever watched play it, and that's Mahomes and Peyton Manning. I just think that it's a whole different level. Like, especially the things Peyton would do. I mean, they're really running the show. Like, you don't even need. I understand that he came in a good system and all these things, but like in Mahomes' case, but man, what an incredible ability just to control games. It's really incredible. I think it's interesting. I like that take, D-Pope. I still think that Hunt is like just on paper in a vacuum. He's obviously a good play, but maybe I agree. The ownership just might be enough to drive me off of it. All right, guys, I'm probably going to get out of here. Seems like the questions about. I like the takes. I'm happy to see all of my good friends in here. We'll be doing shows regularly. It's a weird week. I think we'll probably do a baseball show on Wednesday. I've got to be out for personal things tomorrow, but there's nothing really going on sports-wise anyway. So, so that's pretty much it. Anyway, I appreciate all you guys very much. Please like and subscribe and all that stuff. And check out some of the packages we have. We are on fire, by the way, as a unit. I mean, Sheets has won 3 showdowns in the last week. I won the big baseball showdown. I finished 5th in the Blitz yesterday for 20K. Then we have the Threepidemic, who won the what's it called with his only entry in the World Championship of League of Legends. And then Sheets also finished 3rd in that event. So pretty wild. I hope you guys do check out the site. We got some awesome stuff. All of Saber Sims, everything included, along with all the Sheets' projections, which have been literally like the nuts, as well as Goldies, which have also been like the nuts. and all of my content, all of Cruz's content, all of Rody's content. Yeah, so good luck to everybody tonight. I appreciate all you guys for being a part of the TrueDFS fam, and let's